Hi, I'm Jonathan Allen. I'll be doing a Christian worldview from the book Learning from the Stranger by author David Smith. And this chapter 7 is titled Babblers and Barbarians. And I'll be interviewed by Gina Allen.
Hi, can you tell me about the section titled The Crowd?
Well, David Smith starts out the chapter with Acts 10:28, where he talks about God has shown me that I should not call any man impure or unclean. And this is where Peter meets with Cornelius, who is really a barbarian or a non-Jew, and is getting ready to convert him to follow Christ. And if you look at the area in Jerusalem where Pentecost started, Jews from all over the world were there, strangers to each other, but they were unified in the faith to God. And they were hearing their own language, which was getting their attention.
What did you think of the section titled The Shape of Power?
Well, here again, Smith uses Acts 1:7-8, which talks about you will receive power to be witnesses all over the world. And Smith says this is where Jesus shifts perspective for followers to be rejuvenated or empowered to be witnesses to others about the gospel, and really worldwide.
Tell me about the lover of mankind.
Well, Smith here explains that the Spirit of God is getting the attention of each one in the crowd in their own language. And I think this may have been a preparation for them to be able to pay more attention to Peter's sermon. And of course, the result of that was over 3,000 people got saved in that crowd.
Who are God's people?
Well, Pentecost had people from all over the world. So really from the beginning, Christ was showing that he was available to all people. He is available to all people. The author brings out Acts 10:34-35, where Peter began to speak. I now realize how true it is that God does not show favoritism, but accepts men from every nation who fear him and do what is right.
What are some implications of being a Christian?
Well, some of them is when we do the outreach. And Carl Flagg from the 2019 National War Ranger Conference talked about a church in Africa that was built with volunteers from the Pathfinders Missions, which was from the U.S. And when meeting the pastor of the church, he found that the pastor had been saved at that church, and since that pastor had been saved, he'd been able to start over 127 churches in that area.
Wow.
So that is really a process of sharing Christ with others and how that can spread and affect other people's lives. And if you look at the aspect of recruiting from a human resource perspective, you're really looking at strangers to join your organization. And Holbeck talks about this as a potential to have someone to join your organization to bring talents and experience that they can't find from within. Now, God has given all of us talents that he wants us to use to help spread his gospel.
How do you agree or disagree with the author?
Well, there's some implications about being a Christian that Smith talks about, and that is to be independent of not being independent of God, but to measure behavior by God's standard and his expectation. God saves some from deep sins and keeps others from getting away from him, but both groups are acceptable to him. As Smith says, there is an expectation of living in wholeness that may mean we give up doing things that would not be pleasing to God. Now, I do agree with the author that he uses many verses in this chapter, and I think he uses more here than any other chapter. As a body of believers, we comprise the church, not the buildings around the world, but the people of every language and culture that have come to follow Christ, knowing that there's a future in him that will be held in his love, if we believe in him and do what is right. And in summary, to bring that together more, there's many examples in the Bible of strangers being introduced to Christ and joining the family of God, becoming part of the body of Christ. Now, a theory that talks about this is brought up by Burns, Shoup, and Simmons, where they discuss transformational leadership. And really, isn't Christ wanting us to transform our lives, renewing our minds and spirits to follow his teachings? I challenge you to accept this challenge and follow his teachings. Thank you very much.